Before we get started, we will go on a tour here for about 15 minutes of this building. But I want to introduce everybody here in the room, or let you go around and introduce yourself. To my left,
Hi guys, I think you already know me. I'm Bridget Blevins and I'm the Director of Communications.
behind you,
Chris Silcott, I'm the Director of Operations.
Wesley Matz, I'm the Director of Finance.
Brian Tarr, I'm the new Food Service Director.
And I'm Solon Hayes, I'm Director of Student Services.
Marley Williams, Assistant Super of Academic Services.
if you haven't figured out, John's on camera. Okay, so this is being recorded, and as we tell the board members every night that we have a board meeting that actually goes live the nights of the board meeting, but this is tape recorded, so we might have time or Bridget, somebody to edit anything out. Welcome. I'm glad you're interested in being a board member. Be quite honest with you, I think it's one of the most important positions in any school district, but it's very important for this school district and moving this district forward. And it's going to be important to get people that are interested to sign up and get elected, that can unite and bring not only the Board of Education together in one direction, but also help in bringing that community together in one direction. So as we go through tonight, if you have any questions at any particular point in time, make sure you ask. We'll try to get them answered. But we'll go on a brief tour. We'll be back up here approximately 6:15, 6:20. Short PowerPoint presentation Wes has on finance, and then I'll go over another packet with you as far as the actual process and the board signups. And if you have any questions afterwards, we'll try to get those answered. Hopefully 7 o'clock, you guys stay with me. Brian Kraus will be here as well, Director of HR. In a little bit, we had a meeting over at Keatley Center, not Keatley Center, Traister, with a group we call St. Joe United. And it's a group that was started here 2 years ago, basically, to get input and bring both NEA and MSTA representatives, which is teacher organizations, together to help with the input and provide unity in trying to get everybody on the same page. And they've been a very instrumental group in helping eliminate a lot of issues, at least bringing everybody together on the same page before it goes to the Board of Education. So with that in mind, you guys ready to go on tour?
Sure.
Let's just start out here in the hallway. You met Chris Silcott earlier. Chris, just let him know where your location is and a little bit about what you oversee and the operations.
Okay. If you go right down the street on 9th, you go out 3 blocks, 1000 South 9th. We were at the old Hilliardville Tech building way before we have Hilliardville Tech. So I'm over everything that's buildings and grounds, also warehousing, the print shop. So we have 34 buildings, 300 plus acres of property, 2 million square foot of buildings, and I have probably 170 staff that take care of the buildings. So in a nutshell, that's the.
So you have several staff in each building
I do.
assigned to the building?
That's correct. I mean, we have what we call building engineers. Those are the folks that take care of the boilers, all the mechanical systems, and custodians. We have about 107 of them, I think, something like that.
Do most of the schools have boilers?
We still have about 30 plus boilers, but we've taken a lot of them out. We've air conditioned all of the elementary schools, 2 of the middle schools. So a lot of the boilers, they came out when we put in heating and
Aaron
cooling.
and Luke might find interesting was the reduction in the height of the smokestack at Central, since they both are familiar with Central. And
Yeah.
Aaron hasn't.
Did you watch those folks when
I
they
was
were doing
there.
that?
Yeah,
That was
it
spooky.
It was spooky, and the reason it had to happen, it came down 12 feet or 14 feet?
Yeah, something like that.
The top 12 or 14 feet off, and a company out of Chicago had to come do it because no one around here brings down industrial smokestacks,
Yeah.
because the tiles were falling off, and they were a hazard to people walking under it, so at the top, they were coming down. They took it down.
Yeah, that's right.
Brian?
Well, like I said, I'm the new Director of the Food Service. This is my second week. So I'm still a little new to it, but we've got 24 kitchens. Each kitchen has a kitchen manager. Kitchen, anywhere from 2 cooks to, I think, 6 in Central. I don't know, I'm still going around meeting everybody. My office is actually right next to his, down on 1000 South 9th. Really, being 2 weeks in, I don't know what I could answer, but if you got any questions, I'd sure like to try. So, I mean,
He's actually, Leah Smith, who is transitioning out, is leaving January 1st. And we wanted to transfer whoever we did hire, and Brian was an excellent choice to come in and work with Leah during this last month as she transitions out. We do have a short presentation for you. Wes is going to conduct it in regards to school finance, which obviously with the revenue issue and the election is an important piece to the puzzle.
What?
Aaron got one already.
I think everybody has one.
Yeah.
We're going to go through this rather quickly, and if you do have questions at the end, or we'll do everything we can to answer them.
So I'm going to cover the district school funds, revenue sources of revenue, review fund balances, and give some observations. Now, some of this stuff's a little bit old because it's from last spring. So these are based on 15, 16 numbers, not current numbers. How was this? Oh, there it is. So the district has several different funds. Operating fund, so you'll hear us refer to Fund 1 a lot. That's part of our operating fund. Special service, special revenue fund, which is the teacher fund. Actually, it's all certified staff are paid out of that fund. That service fund is Fund 3. That's what we do. That's how we pay our bonds that are issued to do capital projects. Capital project fund is Fund 4. What the money that goes in and out of there is local annual capital expenditures, not necessarily bond money. Nutrition service has its own fund. It's Fund 5. Student activity fund is Fund 6. Those are to keep track of all of our student activities, from athletics to fun student activities in the building, like National Honor Society, Student Council, things like that. So when we issue a bond, we keep track of all the bond proceeds through our Fund 9, which so when the bond money comes in, we can only spend it on bond projects for capital improvement of buildings, facilities, and things like that. This year we have added a Fund 7, which is not in this presentation. That's how we're going to track our health insurance accounts funds, because we went self-funded this year to save some district money.
Question, Wes. When
Yes, sir.
something like a booster club collects $500, they want to buy something for the band or whatever, how does that money flow?
Okay, so if the school district's going to purchase it, they would make a donation to the school district, or
Okay.
to the school. The board would approve it, and then they would spend the money that way. If they want to buy it themselves, the booster club, then they would donate whatever they're purchasing to the school district. The board would approve it, and that's how it would be.
In those cases where the money is collected and given to the district, and the district actually does the purchasing, then in the budget, that just shows up as a...
It'll show up as a revenue and an expenditure
Okay.
through the activity
But if a
fund.
person's looking only at the expenditures,
Correct.
They would not see, the revenues are in a different place. Yeah,
Right.
in our budget structure, the revenues are first and the expenditures are later. So when an item is purchased and then expended, we don't offset them. One shows up as a revenue, one shows up as an expenditure. Now, in the activity funds, there are revenues for activity funds that will offset the expenditures for the activity fund.
But many times when people see the expenditures and the expense report, that's just one side of the equation. It doesn't show the offset of the revenue.
Okay? The general revenue and the teacher's funds are used to run day-to-day operations of the district. That covers all salaries and expenditures, supplies, purchase services, transportation, food service, just all day-to-day operations. Revenues of these two funds come from local property taxes as well as state and federal funds. Local is also county taxes. So your railroad utilities, your fines and cheats, those kind of things all run through your general fund. And there's a list of them. I'm not gonna read them all off to you. This is weird, why is this doing it? Anyway, combined balance carried in these funds is the primary indicator of the district's financial viability and stability. So basically, we need to keep a fund balance of about 20% in our district to keep us through, run us through the end of December. 40% of our revenues typically are collected in January of every year, because most people pay their property taxes in December. So a large portion of our budget for revenues comes in the middle of the year. We have our fiscal year runs through June 30th. So when we get that money in January, we got to not only make it through June 30th, but we also have to make it through the beginning of the year to December 31st until we're getting our new revenues in January. So that's why we have to keep a fund balance. Like I said, these are old numbers. Our fund balance at the end of 17 was 19%. Our projected fund balance for the end of 18 is going to be around 15%.
So is state and federal monies, do those come in monthly or?
State typically comes in monthly. The federal money is a little bit trickier. Most of those budgets and stuff are not approved and finalized until after September 30th. So what we'll do, we submit our federal budget. It has to be substantially approved by July 1. But until we complete our final expenditure reports for the previous year, which have to be submitted and approved by DESI by the end of September, we cannot request federal funds until after October 1st typically.
After you request me, do they come in monthly or do they come in monthly?
Yeah, so like
Okay.
in October, we'll do, as soon as we get approved, then we'll request funds.
Okay.
And then we'll start doing it on a monthly basis.
You have to expend federal funds first
Yes.
before you can receive the reimbursement for them.
Okay, so the debt service fund is created to pay back general obligation bonds only. And that is a voter-approved general obligation bond. So when we run a levy to issue bonds, the voters are actually approving the issuance of the bonds, not actually setting the rate. We determine the rate based on what it's going to take to fulfill the payment of the bonds over a 20-year period.
For whatever term you set.
Or whatever term you said. Yes, you can pay them off quicker than 20 years, but typically they run 20 years.
It's unusual to run a bond issue for anything less than 20 years.
That is very correct. So any revenue collected for that can only be used to pay for the expenditures for repaying that debt. So we can't use those funds to run operating. Okay, this was, like I said, these are old numbers. Our current debt service fund is a little bit over 50 cents. It's 50 cents and a couple of hundreds, I think. We adjust that based on, to keep our total tax levy at a certain number. I think it's 357 this year. So we,
3.5712.
that's it. He goes out all the way to the thousands. I lost my train of thought. So the operating fund will fluctuate up and down a little bit every year. So what we try to do is we have a little bit of leeway with our debt service, that we can increase that or decrease it depending on what the operating funds do. So we want to try to keep a constant, steady, consistent
Total levy.
total levy. Okay, so the capital projects fund, that is used to, we can use it to erect buildings, do building additions, remodeling, construction, furnishings for buildings, or any other equipment purchases. Typically, our capital project fund is used for just annual repurchase of capital. If we are doing a capital project through bonds, we run it through a Fund 9.
We have annual ongoing capital needs to roughly $2 to $4 million that you can't just do a bond issue for. You really need an annual revenue source to cover those capital needs. You can place your part of your operating levy in Fund 4 to help cover those annual expenditures. Bond issues are more designed to actually use for a fixed capital project. And a prime example, for instance, is like laptop one-to-one initiative, where you're annually either maintaining them or replacing them. And currently, right now, that is one of the largest revenue, about 1.5 million annually to maintain in the school district, and as far as capital projects, annual capital projects are concerned.
And you're not supposed to issue bonds to buy equipment. Now, if you build a new building or addition or something, you can purchase the equipment to fill out the building, furnish it, that's correct. We track everything that's $1,000 at our district, that's required, but we also track all technology. So every Chromebook and everything, we inventory it and keep a track of it because we have so much. If we stayed at the $1,000, you wouldn't see that we had hardly any technology, because most of our Chromebooks run about $250, $300. So that's why we track all technology. At the end of 17, our capital reserve balance was right at a little bit over $10 million. And like Robert said, we spend between $2 and $4 million a year on capital expenditures. We have three main sources of revenue. We have local, which includes property taxes, and then county, which was part of local. Then we have state and federal. These percentages are pretty close. So the state average for local typically runs around 56%. In St. Joe, we're running almost 51%, which is low. We rely heavily on state funding. We run about 41%, whereas the state average is 34%. So that means we rely a lot more on state funding, where most of the school districts in the state run on local. Did I say that backwards?
You got it right,
Okay.
the third time.
The third time's a charm. Our federal funds are pretty consistent with the state average. We're a little bit on the low side here. But last year for 16-17, we were actually closer to the 9%. In local funding, the sales tax is actually included, even though it comes from the state. It's kind of an odd calculation. I don't know why they do it that way. So, like I said, local funds, property taxes are the main source. It's real and personal property. Real property would, of course, be real estate or houses. Personal property would be cars, boats, motorcycles, livestock, those kind of things.
Airplanes,
Airplanes, anything we can think to tax. Our current operating levy this year is 3.06 and some change. And then, like I said, we rely heavily on...
The irony with that operating levy is in 1994, the operating levy for the St. Joe School District was $2.86. And in 23 years, we're just 20 cents higher today. Less than a penny a year.
How come we didn't do the full 312? Because we're showing 312.
Okay, so the Proposition C, prop sales tax, which is related to the sales tax.
That's the
So
rollback.
if the sales tax goes up,
The
our
rollback.
local goes down. So that's what causes problems with that Prop C. See, we're not even operating at our full ceiling because of the Prop C rollback. Also, railroad and utilities. If you have too much increase in railroad utilities, too much increase in assessed valuation,
New
it drops.
construction.
Yeah, it'll also drive your local taxes down because they don't want you to have a windfall. The state doesn't. So they can lower your ceiling if you have too much growth.
was that part of the Hancock Amendment?
Yes,
it was.
that is correct.
And with the Prop C rollback, that's what we were trying to get across, was that districts, 95% of the districts, the 530-some school districts in the state have waived that rollback. So they get the double benefit of their tax rate ceiling and the Proposition C sales tax dollars, where currently we don't. And you better have a, you know, a lot of sales tax dollars come in that helps offset your low operating levy. And we're not seeing that.
So if we had the rollback, that would be technically 58 cents, then we would
It'd be
gain the 52
56
cents from that plus then the
Correct.
6 cents that we lose here.
Right. So the rollback actually increased from 16-17 to 17-18 by 4 cents. And that's a difficult calculation and variable to predict each year. And, you know, been at this a long time, and the districts that really get ahead have done exactly that and have waived that rollback requirement.
So state funding, the majority of our state funding comes from the state foundation formula, and there's a lot of things that go into that calculation. Free reduced count, English as second language students, or English learners, I think they call it, and our special education count. It's based off of our average daily attendance. So if a student reports to school all year, we get 1 ADA. If they only report 9/10 of the year, we get 9/10 of an ADA. So you add them all up, last year our enrollment was 11,276, I believe, and we ended up at 10,520 for our ADA. So you can see how much potential money that we lost there just because the students didn't attend school.
So attendance, not only is it an academic importance, but it is also a revenue importance.
And there's no decrease in operating costs when a student is not there.
Correct. There might be a very teeny tiny, they may not flush the toilet or eat a meal, but it's not as, you know, it's not as significant as you would think. I mean, but anyway, like I said, the Prop C sales tax comes from the state of Missouri, but it shows up as local funds. Classroom trust, that's your gaming, your gambling money. So when everybody calls me and says, well, how come you don't get any money from the casinos? I say, well, we do. It's called Classroom Trust Fund. They say, well, why is it called that? I don't know. That's just what it is. I think that's in the state statute. It says that it's called Classroom Trust Fund. Then transportation, we get about 19% reimbursement on our transportation. Back in the, 90s probably?
Well, even 10 years ago, it was 70% reimbursement rate. Today, it's only 19. So when we talk about state funding, what they've done, they have funded the formula better. But what they've done is they've decreased these categorical payments like transportation.
It's a shell game.
It's a shell game.
It's a shell game. So the basic formula is based on what they call a state adequacy target. So what they do is they adjust the state adequacy target up or down. So right now it's at 6220, I believe is what it's at now. So if they're short money, they drop it down to 6100. So even though they say they're fully funding it, they're really truly not, because by this time when they initiated the formula back in 2005, I believe it was, by now it should be up to like almost $7,000 per ADA. So they haven't been keeping up with the inflation, they've just been adjusting the formula based on the amount of funds that they have available.
But yet, they fund it at that amount, we're fully funded.
Yes. So vocational education would be stuff, a lot of things that are run at Hilliard's. Early childhood special education is currently fully funded. We also have other special education, early childhood, but that's funded with other sources like federal or local. And then parents as teachers, that's another program that's funded by the state that gets cut a lot. I mean, they cut it in half, I think, in the last 5 or 6 years. I mean, it just gets pounded. And then, like I said, so the weighted average daily attendance is where you take the average daily attendance times the state adequacy target times the dollar value modifier minus your local effort. Local effort, they do a calculation to figure out how much you're paying towards your education with local funds. And that local effort was calculated in 2005 and it's frozen. So when I do my budget book, it looks really weird that the local effort never changes. That's because it was set in 2005 and that number always has to stay the same.
It was a picture,
Yes.
freeze frame year that they used as a calculation.
So that equals our state funding. Like I said, these are last year's numbers. I'm not sure what our ADA is this year. I think it's like at 34 something, 3480 per ADA.
So it could go up next year because of the Strive for Five. That's getting more kids in school every day.
We are hoping
We are hoping.
that.
Of course, that just means that the state wouldn't reduce their number.
portion.
Yeah, we don't know what the state's gonna do. I mean, there's only so much money at the state level. I mean,
Yeah.
last year, what they did to balance it, they took it out of higher education. Higher education got hit hard. I think, what, 150 million or something? So, I mean, for me, that kind of stunk because I have 2 kids in college. You know, so now I'm gonna have to pay out a little extra bucks. So, anyway,
Just briefly go over the requirement of 75% of state dollars and what we do.
oh, yeah, so all state funds currently, with this 75% of the state formula money must go into the teacher's fund. We are currently placing 100% in there. We also place all this, the Prop C money in there. We are required by law to put 75% of 50% of the Prop C money in there. I know it's kind of a goofy thing, but so we just go ahead and put all state monies, gaming, Prop C, and the foundation formula, we put it all in the teacher fund.
That way, everybody knows up front, and teachers and transparency, that this is where it's at, this is where it's going, no questions asked, and this is what it's gonna take to offset the state funding to pay teachers. And we have to transfer to help cover
Yeah,
that.
we still have
at the end of the year.
last year, 17, we transferred a little over 12 million to still fully, because at the end of the year, the teacher fund, certified teacher fund has to be at 0 balance. It can't be negative. It can be positive, but very rarely do they allow that to happen. Anyway, so this explains the Prop C a little bit more, gives a little bit better history on it. It was a 1 cent sales tax approved by the voters in the 1982. Oh, guys, it's been a long day. 1/2 of the funds are used for district expense, 1/2 is reduced property taxes. So, like Robert said, because of that, our sales tax fluctuates based on the amount that we collect every year. In 16, it was 52 cents. This year, it's 50 cents. So it fluctuates up and down based on the amount of sales tax we collect in a
It's
year.
56 cents this year, the rollback is.
No, it's 50 cents.
The rollback was 56 to 306,
Okay,
and that,
okay. I know it went back that much, but I don't, all right, yeah, okay. At 94%, I think it's increased, 'cause I think a couple other districts have done it since we did this. There was a couple that have passed it last year, the year before last. So we hadn't updated this, it's at 95% now, have waived it. And the reason I know one of the school districts over from Northeastern, where I'm from, passed it last spring. It was Hamlin's where they finally passed theirs. Okay, so federal funding, it's based largely on our free and reduced count, amount of students that qualify for free and reduced lunches, and also our special education count, number of students that have special services or need additional educational support to help them achieve their goals in education. Also, English learners, that'll drive up a little bit of the money. Federal funds, other federal funds we have additional federal funds for the homeless, our homeless programs. Your lunch program is 90, I think we're running right at 96% funded by the federal government. Very little of it comes from local money. We have 14 school districts currently on free. Every student at the district, every student in that building receives a free breakfast and lunch. And do they get a snack too? No, no snack.
Is that based on the building itself? In other words,
Okay, so there's certain threshold you have to meet in order to apply. So what we did was we can pool buildings. When we first initially did it, we could only qualify for 8, but by pooling buildings and averaging them, we can now do 14 buildings. We get reimbursed at 96, you know the exact percentage? It's 96 point something.
Yeah.
So of every meal in there, we get reimbursed for 96 out of 100 meals at the free rate.
So Humboldt is.
Humboldt is one of the schools.
100%.
100%. So if you took those Humboldt students, and I'm not suggesting we do this, I'm just trying to understand the process. If you took the Humboldt students and put half of them out at Oak Grove,
Well, you wouldn't take them clear Oak Grove.
well, no, you wouldn't.
Well, they said, what would that do
Just
to
suppose you
Groves?
did. What would they do to Oak Grove? Like, I'm not
If you
I'm
took
not
half
proposing
of
that.
them,
Well,
I don't think, Oak Grove is such a small percentage of free and reduced. I think it's running like 12,
if that.
if that. It's so small, even putting half of those kids in there, I don't think would bring it up enough that you could get free.
You would lose.
You would have a better chance at field,
Carton Park
or field.
or Field.
Field.
Carton Park already qualifies. Parkway
Possibly Pershing might.
Pershing's the other one.
Be close.
Yeah.
I think you got your mind, I'm just trying to get a feel. for
Well, in the
that.
south end, you've got Lake, Hyde, and Hosea. So if you was happen to close one of those schools, they're just going to recirculate around, and they're already free.
No,
Okay,
Okay?
thank you. But don't go out here saying that I'm suggesting taking.
No, I didn't. No, that's a question.
The camera's watching.
We heard it right, so we
It's
can,
not like TV,
All right,
we're
we're
really
done.
good with that.
yeah.
So,
And that
Larry
ends my
said, we're gonna close.
Thanks, Aaron.
no, Wes, I will say, when you were talking about the free, all free, we do have 2 schools that have after-school snacks provided free.
Oh, so we did have 2.
We have 2.
I couldn't remember if the after-school snacks,
That
there's
is
certain criteria.
Coleman and Carton Park.
Okay.
They have an after-school snack program that is also free, and with that, they qualify for that.
Does anybody have any questions? I know that's a lot of information in a short period of time. If you want more detail, you can come sit down. I'll be, if an evening or something, I'll be glad to meet up with you and go through it. Dr. Newhart can answer any questions also.
What a waste of paper to have one page with those questions.
Well, you're supposed to write, you're supposed to fill the pages up with questions.
This is a packet for you. And I'm not gonna go through everything in the packet, you need to do that at your leisure. But there is one sheet particularly that looks like this on the right side of your packet. Yeah, it's after the MEC handbook. And basically, this is a summary or tells you a little bit. The thing I really want to make sure you know is that filing will begin on December 12th at 8 a.m. and will continue through the district's regular business hours, which are Monday through Friday from 8 to 4:30, except for the first and last day of filing, which those days will close at 5 p.m. And the district is not open between December 25th and January 2nd, and also not open on January 15th, that is Martin Luther King Day. Filing ends January 16th. So from December 12th through the 16th is when filing opens. You will actually come in and pick a number, okay? And that number will determine where you are placed on the ballot. So there's not any more lining up outside, first one in gets their name placed on the ballot. It's by random draw, and that's where your name will appear.
It's on day one only though, isn't it? Is that only on day one?
Good question, Larry. I don't believe so. I think it's every candidate. If I remember right, all 10 candidates last time did not sign up on day one. No, we did have 10 candidates last year. Well, I take that back in 16, April of 16.
We can look at that. I was thinking that,
That would be a call or question to Donna.
I was thinking that drawing was only on day one signups, and then after that it was,
It just came in as it went.
yeah, but
No,
I could
no,
be
no, but they
wrong.
drew, every person drew.
That's what I
Yeah,
thought.
every person drew, because yeah, I mean, did we even have 2 people show up the first day? Because it seemed like there wasn't very many that
Most
showed
of the
up.
people showed up towards the end, actually.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. They were after January.
But obviously, there are 3 positions open this time. Larry's currently filling a spot vacated by Chris Stanford, and that spot came open in April of 18. And then the other 2 spots are being vacated by Martin Rucker and Dennis Sneedham. They are not rerunning. 3-year terms, so this would be for 3 years to 2021, which you then would come up for reelection again. What is the change in the St. Joe School District? I think both of you heard my spiel the other night and understand that. Larry's been on the board and understand that. I won't go into it, but that is new now to the St. Joe School District. Donna Baker, that you saw the desk there in the outer office of the superintendent's office, is where you'll come in and sign up with. And she'll have all this paperwork for you, because you have to do it in front of her. Okay, that's why you just see sample sheets on these.
It is just the first name.
Is that what,
Yeah, go down, 3rd paragraph. Under candidate following 3rd paragraph.
in my opinion, you either need to be first or last.
Well, it depends on how long the list is going to be.
It's gonna be interesting, guys. I don't know what to expect. I don't know if we'll have 10 again, I really don't, but
Could have 100.
yeah.
Yeah, but now since there's no signatures required.
The biggest thing I would suggest you do is also read here at the back is the school board member ethic policy, the conflict of interest and financial disclosure policy, and then also what the responsibilities of a school board member are. And no disrespect to Larry, but it's required a lot of oversight just with a lot of the issues that have gone on years past, but we're better today. And anybody that says differently wasn't here in 2015. And we want to get to normal. What is a normal functioning school district? And what is a normal functioning school district? It's board members trusting administration and the people they hire. The main responsibility is to hire a superintendent. And then set policy. That's really the main function. And it is important ultimately for this school district to get back to that point, whatever that point in time was in the St. Joe School District history.
Here's what I can tell you. I've been in the workforce for 50 years, and I've never been accused of being a thief, a crook, or being corrupt. I've been on the school board for 8 months, and I've been accused of all 3 of those things. So changes happen pretty rapidly.
When you're dealing with parents, kids, and grandkids, it's an important commodity. And we are entrusted with those kids on a daily basis. And we take it very seriously as professional educators, or we wouldn't be in this business. And we have a great staff. Now, do we have issues in a district this size? You're going to. But again, overall, it's a lot of good people. If you have any questions between now and December 12th, you can call me or call Donna Baker. Just call into the main office there and ask for Donna, and she'd be more than happy to talk to you. But the information is almost in this packet. Read at your leisure, and that way, if you do have any questions, you can let us know.
May we adjourn?
There's no questions. We'll be here for a few more minutes, but good luck to all of you. We appreciate your interest in here tonight. Lute, I didn't know who we'd have.
between, I've raised all my signatures for city council, but before I turned it in, I wanted to just double check, because I've been thinking about school district since the beginning.
The school district, and I'm not, you know, the light shines on both the council and the school board. But in my opinion, we do need some bright young energy.
Again, no offense.
Oh my God, it says young.
But see, he doesn't know how old I am, so.
I think a lot of times we miss out, and Larry's a grandparent, so I give Larry a lot of credit there, but we've got to get people that are connected and invested with kids, and that take that, you know, seriously. We have a lot of great kids in the district, and today they need us more than ever.
And not be part of a group that's trying to overthrow the board.
Yeah.
You have to be a strong, independent thinker, whether you're on the council or on the board. But appreciate you guys coming, I really do.